Welcome everyone. I'm Nikhil Purohit. The topic of today is ambitious artistic ambitions. Uh, are we fine with English? What language is preferred? If you can suggest me, we can speak in that way.
Hindi, English.
Hindi and English is fine. Okay. Yeah. Uh, when we think of ambitions, one of the ideas what we discussed when Moshmi asked me, like, we are going to ask Sudhir sir to present his works. So I responded saying that we have heard from him in so many times, and we have seen in a very immersive exhibition of his. So it would be more apt to learn his observations about the journey of decades, where he has seen different artistic practice evolve over a longer period. So, in that sense, what does an artist aspire? We have a very young lot of aspiring artists with us today, and many of us continue to be aspiring despite of age. So, aspiration doesn't have age. There are different levels of aspirations, and we can see witness that in different national, international levels. So the artists who are now international, now they want to be even more international in so many ways. So, and the ambitions can be very different. uh, the very idea of the ambition itself can be about a certain creative process that they want to achieve as an outcome of it or a process of it. So it could be something that, oh, in a studio I want to do these things, and that itself is my ambition. Or I want to attain a certain mental status, and that also could be an ambition, that I have enough of whatever I need to live, and now I just need to focus on a certain so-called, whatever you may want to term it as, but a mental process we want to engage with. So politically, it could be like someone wants a certain recognition. So there can be a wide range of ambitions artists can have, and through the creative process, and that is where the artist goes on to choose his material. Perhaps that an ambition can become a trigger for artists' actions of choice of material, choice of thought, and all of the process, whether it's a studio process or being within the society. All of that makes that ambition more prominent. So, on that note, I request Sudhir sir to take over and share insights with us, and we will engage in the dialogue continuously. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikhil. I'm going to show just 6 or 7 slides of my work, just to take you through the decades, just for an introduction for you, uh, uh, introducing my work to you. And each work I've chosen kind of points to a certain kind of ambition one had at that particular time. I would say that, as he has rightly said, that when you talk of artistic ambition, one should differentiate between two basic things. One is as an artist as a vocation, and one is as a profession.
Hmm.
Now, both these things are distinct, though they are related, but one will have to think of them in different ways. And concerning the art vocation, concerning the profession, I think Nikhil can give us more insights as to what needs to be done. I will be talking more about the art as a vocation. So this is an early painting from 1980s, and after I came to Bombay in 75, my main interest was to paint the city that I was seeing around me. So train painting, what every day one was traveling in. Next, please. Then I moved to a suburb, and then I was exposed to more open landscape. I would also say that in the first painting, I was using influences from Western art, the kind of triptych arrangement of the work. And in these paintings, I was using influences from miniature painting. So the ambition always was to use art history in whatever ways one can, beneficial for one's own statement. So this is town, and the other one is called fall. So in both of those, I was studying the suburbs, the outskirts of the city. Yes, next please. I was also mainly interested in the human figure and in drawing. That was, I've always been uh, drawing a lot. So the human figure has always been at the center. So that has been an ambition. I've always believed that art is about people. So not for everyone, but for me. So that has been a continuing kind of source of inspiration. Next, please. Yeah. Along with that, I've also felt that art should reach people. I'm painting people, but I must also take art to the people. So I did a process of for 3 years painting in a certain area, taking out, as someone was just pointing out, paint on the spot, going out to paint, and then involving those people in the process of seeing works of art, how they are created, what is the difference between a photograph and a painting, what goes. So this was like an exhibition I held in the area where I was holding. This was in the late 80s. Next, please. Then a little jump to 2005 or so, where the question of what actually representation means. So that was some an issue that I was very much concerned with. That one is always using representation, but the painting is called difficulty in telling the truth, because I felt that during representation one is always missing something. Whatever, no matter how well you draw, but it's a separate thing from reality. So here there is a artist sitting in front of the painting, and there are two windows. One can say that the artist on the left is actually the real artist, and the one on the right is the representation. But there is also that part has gone a little dark. But in the right corner, if I don't know if you can see it, if you can shift it a bit this side,
Yes.
or there is a small white. No, I think you can see it on the palette. There is a blob of white paint. Now, yes. So the question there is it a blob of white paint, or is it a representation of a blob of white paint? No, one at the same time, it is both. Now, this is something that one experiences while seeing great paintings always. That there are both things. They are representing something, but they are also themselves. Like in Rembrandt's portraits, you see brushworks, you see paint, but then you also, they represent something. So this enigma of representation is something I was concerned with. Next. Again, this question of enigma of representation. Now, this triangle is called impossible triangle. So because it cannot be constructed, so this triangle cannot exist in 3 dimension, but I've represented it as if it is there on the table and the person is handling it. So that creates the kind of enigma, or states the kind of enigma about representation. I think that's the last of my slides.
Yep.
But I've got a few, three or four more. No, there is, sorry. And more recently, I've painted the city and the way the city is changing, but also I've painted what is happening in the world. So what is happening is happening in Palestine, Israel, what is happening elsewhere. So there is all this talk about development. We see it in Bombay. There is so much talk about development, and we are reaching some state. But at the same time, throughout the world, there is so much destruction happening. So that question comes to mind, that where are we as a human race headed? So those were the kind of questions. So those are also the kind of questions that one has come to one's mind. Next, please. Yeah. So, was 1 second.
Sure.
So when we think of artistic ambition, as I said in the beginning, one must think of it as an artist. Artist is a vocation. You are an artist because you like to do what you are doing. You're not here to make money. You're not here because someone has given you a job. It is something that you like to do, whatever the condition. And as a profession, I mean, those are a little joke there. Uh, because I used to be a doctor. Previously, there used to be a unwritten rule that doctors boards must be black and white, simple, just the name, timing, etc. But now one finds that doctors have these big kind of shop windows, you know. But it is not that only that. Everywhere you see things have changed. Every profession, not just artists, every profession is pushing itself in different ways. Previously, you are good in one subject, you did your MSc in, say, chemistry, you applied for a job in a pharmaceutical, you went for an interview, they would ask you about the subject. If you are good, you would get a job. Today, you need to prepare, you need to present yourself, you need to show yourself. So that change is there. So about that, I think Nikhil will talk about it. But about vocation, that what is necessary is honesty and clarity about one's ability and of purpose. So there are some things one can do, some things one cannot, one is not good at. So one should be clear about that. One should be clear about the purpose. For what is one doing something? And one must be honest with oneself. Without that, if one is kind of deluding oneself and thinking that, you know, I'm like this, I'm that chap is not better than me, why is he making more money? Why am I not making all those questions? Next, please. Well, yeah, I mean, on one hand, Van Gogh, who painted, he just wanted to paint. But Damien Hirst is the richest artist today. So one has to really, who are our real ideals? You know, one has to somewhere decide how to look at this. It's part of the change that's happening in the world, but one has to be clear about it. Next, please. Yeah, then one has to be, as I said, clear about what one wants to do. One might want to just paint,
Mm.
you know, like Vinod Bihari or just simple plants. So many people here are doing just plants, collecting plants, painting, or one wants to do something huge, like Anish Kapoor's Cloud in Chicago. So both can be great, both can be good art, but one has to know where what you like to do lies. One has to discover your real purpose. Next, please. This is a installation that Hema Upadhyay had done with a lot of work. So that is also another thing. Do you want to do a lot of manual work? Do you want to do a lot of labor intensive work? For some people that is very important. That gives a lot of satisfaction. For some people it's just a thought. You have a thought, you ask someone to prepare that, like Shilpa Gupta's हम सब एक दूसरे को बदलते हैं or something like that.
Correct.
So that is the difference again. One has to discover what kind of work one that really satisfies you as a vocation. Because as I said in the beginning, you are in it because you like it. So you must continue to like what you're doing. If you are forced into doing, your gallery says ये बनाओ वो बनाओ, पेंटिंग नहीं चलता है, स्कल्पचर बनाओ, स्कल्पचर नहीं चलता है, इंस्टॉलेशन करो, वीडियो करो, ये करो वो करो. If that is not what you like, you should know what you like. Next, please. And are you ready to risk yourself? So Yoko Ono cut piece as a performance. He sat there and was ready to risk her life or to risk something and expose herself. And that is John Baldessari, another conceptual artist who has a very nice, that's a work by John Baldessari. So it's very funny. Tips for artists who want to sell. So you can go through it. Generally speaking, paintings with light colors sell more quickly than paintings with dark colors. Subjects that sell well: Madonna and Child, landscape, flower painting, still lives, free of morbid props, dead birds, etc. They don't like still lives with dead birds. Nudes, marine pictures, abstracts, and surrealism. Subject matter is important. It has been said that paintings with cows and hens in them collect dust that no one looks at them, while the same paintings with bulls and roosters sell. It's just basically it's a joke. It's a conceptual. It's an idea. John Baldessari is a well-known conceptual artist, as you all know. So the contrast between a conceptual artist and a performance, not a contrast, but the different kinds of works. And I see that lots of artists are doing here a lot of different work. So it's very inspiring that there is so much work being done, so much kind of dedication to the kind of work that they want to do. But I realize that from a position of being relatively successful to talk about like vocation and not about profession is a little odd, because everyone needs to become successful professionally. Now, how and what are the steps to do that? I think Nitin can probably give us some clues. But I would say that throughout that process, whatever you do, as I said earlier about the doctors, how far are you going to go? Will you still continue to like what you're doing? That was an important question, you know, because with doctors, for example, it started with bigger signboards, but then also by giving out cut tractors, various things in doctor's practice. Same thing can happen. You use social media to project yourself. You use, all this is there today, and it can be used. To what extent do you want to use that is an important question.
Sir has managed to slyly push a lot of weight on me.
Practical.
Well, certainly I'll try to again shift it back to him. Uh, when we think of being practical about being in the art world, again, of course, we all have many questions which never get answered, or there are no straight answers. Nobody want to answer you straight. Those who are successful, those who are beginning, everyone has those set of questions. But once there are moments, some of us just make peace with, okay, ये अपनी औकात है, हम इसी में जी लेंगे. So in terms of ambitions, we may start like like a kind of a falcon, like we want to rise high and high, but then eventually we realize that no, that's these are not the possibilities of my own self. Maybe let's not go there, but let me just settle with this. And perhaps that is a tragedy or a paradox. Majority of the artists we see, most of them either due to their own personal responsibilities, their social commitments, or their lack of bringing few things together, whether it is a matter of commerce, whether it is the right type of communication, or whether it is uh, I always kind of since I have read, my father was into a humble man, but he was into marketing. And even though he never directly taught me things, but I always remember of 4 P's, which is again I forget the gentleman's name right now, who mentions about branding, 4 P's of branding or marketing, which is product, placement, promotion, anyone, any four, and the pricing. These are the 4 P's which we generally aspire, and if we place it right correctly, we become the biggies and a certain type of artist in what we may name. Right now, we will not go down that trajectory, that's not necessary. Uh, but every stage, if we start analyzing, okay, how did they position themselves? Okay, they position themselves in a Guggenheim, probably then they are recognized as a global artist, or they were positioned or collected by a certain collection, they are of a certain reach. So most of the times either we are speaking of a economic and political status in the sense within the art world or the politics of art world, But more importantly, I will ask a question about Sir's observations that we clearly see a certain, in a sense, benchmarks that with change in technology, we all know that Impressionism allowed us to look at colors in a scientific way, and also photography came in, and that's why we are able to sit and watch each other and do things. We are being filmed right now, and we, in different realities, we will be looking at each other. That allowed to look at other forms of realities and so many methods of visual representations. So 90s, especially with a parallel with, thanks to our former prime minister, that the economy opened up, and in a similar fashion we see that a certain group of artists, we all know them, and now they are quite giants in the art field itself. Their work started coming out, and they all came up with a certain spectacle with them, a certain gigantic monumental presentations which overwhelms the viewer. So we start looking at trajectories which have a certain understanding that okay, we need to not position ourselves only for a certain audience, but different audiences are in place. So I think, so how do you look at these transitions? Maybe not just only with the 90s or any other, but over last 4 5 decades, what your observations has been? Like, I was happy maybe working in a studio with a pen and pencil. On, I just need a supply of papers, but then that is not enough maybe. Yeah, even though I might have a 4 5 acre land, I will till it, I will have enough food for the year, and I will continue working. But that doesn't end over there, and perhaps artistic ambitions are many ways layered with personal ambitions, what you rightly segmented as vocational and professional. So how does this coming together happen? Like, what really merges them, and how does one have to distinguish them? Then there is always a dilemma. So before I hand over the mic to Sir, a quick thing which I decided in my life, like, I realized, thanks to Damle sir over here, we had always used to have a conversation about what I want to do, and then I was inclined towards research and writing and things like that. So I decided that I will not let my artistic practice or studio practice be affected by what the rest of the world want to look at. So I made peace with that, and then I started a different trajectory, which we will discuss some other time. So I had a dilemma, I faced that dilemma, and then I made my own choices, and most of us do those choices for each one of us. So if you can highlight on this.
Yeah, speaking a little personally, in the late 80s, two of my good friends, Vivan Sundaram and Nalini Malani, switched their practice, moved from their painting practice to something else. So, using photography, using installation in different ways. So, that was disturbing for me in the sense that one felt a pressure that maybe I also need to do something. So, my first step was to try doing something in photography. And I was trying to do miniature photography and see if that led anywhere. After a year or two, I realized that what I missed most was painting. And that is a simple thing. I sit in front of the canvas and paint. That makes me happy. There's nothing good or bad about it. It's just there. So then I decided that let me just continue with what I. But it is true, as you say, that in the 90s, a shift happened globally also, and also because one was exposed. Indian art became exposed globally. So, and there was a big ideology that painting is dead. So that lots of artists kind of were affected by that. Everyone is saying that painting is dead. You go to any biennale, you go to any big, there are no paintings. Maybe out of 100 works, there are 2 or 3 paintings. Everything else is video or installation. So where do I stand? Where does a painter stand? So in such a situation, to hold on to doing what you want, I've been lucky, of course, that people have appreciated my work. It may be that sometimes people don't appreciate you, but that is a point, that is a kind of personal this thing. But I would say that in the 80s or in the 70s, what I would go to senior artists and, or invite them, and if they liked my work, that was enough for me.
Mm,
What some of the critics, Gnaneshwar Nadkarni, or what they wrote, one read, of course, but mainly what other artists said about your work mattered. In the 90s, that ceased to be so.
mm,
Other artists, it's not other artists' opinion. It became the opinion of the media, it became the opinion of galleries,
mm,
gallerists, that started to make a difference. And therefore, the bonds of friendships that were there in the art world earlier,
mm,
those also seem to have, at that time, in the 90s,
mm,
have loosened because everyone was in competition with each other. It was
mm.
like everyone is in the market and there are very few buyers, there are very few slots to reach the
Right,
top,
right.
and therefore everyone is competing with the other person. So this was the situation, not entirely healthy, but it was a phase through which we have gone. I'm happy to say that luckily we
Mm,
are beyond that
mm,
stage,
mm,
but unfortunately, still there are many more artists than galleries can actually support.
mm,
That is a sad thing in India, that we don't have a tired system
mm.
where there are different levels of galleries, different levels of showing, where each person can then seek to climb that. Here you either reach the top or you remain
Hmm.
at the bottom.
Hmm.
So there are no middle galleries. But now that seems to be changing somewhat. And I think like what Anna and Potential are doing is a very important step in trying to stabilize
Hmm. Hmm.
the, the art practice of younger artists in a market driven economy
Hmm.
as a separate thing, as a kind of democratic process where people have a say on their own practice and things like that. So that is.
Thank you, sir. Uh, Continuing this, I have often seen the tension between the rural and the urban. The validation that the ambition begins with being living in a rural place or a non-metro city like Mumbai, and then we are somewhere, let's say, in Nasik or in Kolhapur, and then every individual artist who might have studied right from ATD or diploma or any of the degrees they might have uh, gained, their kind of initial aim is that their benchmark in their life is to showcase at
Jahangir.
Jahangir, uh, which also is collapsing significantly in recent years. Thanks to that, they have not restructured themselves as a public gallery. So I think there are two-way processes which are continuously required, that as we all evolve, systems also need to evolve together, and especially the public art galleries. However, I want to bring back the point to the regional references here. Now, when we see that aspirations or ambitions of certain artistic achievements uh, are also informed by a certain stronghold of ideologies which are very regional. So, if we go to Kolhapur, we see that a very strong sensibility of landscape painting is there, and there is nothing wrong with it. Certainly they but, again, we can debate on in a different context over there, but that regional aesthetics is very strong, and of course it's a post colonial idea. It's not that they have been following it since ages. Similarly, like you can pinpoint that regionally there have been different ideologies, and they subscribe generations after generations. Students subscribe, the elders have already done it, the teachers have been doing it, and then even the distance between Pune and Mumbai is not much. Sir has seen both the cities closely. So coming back to one legacy program which Sir ran was Vistaranarik Kshitije, expanding horizons. So I think that uh, project, I don't know how many of you younger lot knows this, but Sudhir sir, with the help of many other people, but with his ideation, he brought in many contemporary artists' real works together, put it in a modular exhibiting format, and took it to major cities of Maharashtra. Yeah, and not just like a portable pop-up exhibition nowadays that happen in a mall and things like that, but a serious institutional understanding that taking it to Pune, Nagpur, in
Nashik,
Aurangabad.
Aurangabad.
Yeah, so all these places, when they are going there, they are having a dedicated series of talks.
Talks and film
Yeah,
shows and
exchanges are happening constantly. Regional audiences are being informed about the art historical trajectories, and also being introduced to the contemporary practices of artists around. So through that lens, when you did that, it's almost 20 years, sir?
no,
No, so
209,
it's 15.
209.
Yeah.
Yeah, 15 years.
Yes. So from that
16 years.
perspective, what would you see that changes happen? Of course, all of them have access to quick internet today, so they don't require the model of Vistadari Kshitija right now.
Yeah.
But the sensibility in terms of changing their sensibilities or adapting to things. So how do you think there is a change in this, and like from the project being instituted back then when internet was not even a very handy thing, people had to pay at least 30 rupees for an hour of sitting in a I don't know how much younger generations come gone through that, but 1 घंटा इंटरनेट एक्सेस करने के लिए 30 रुपए दे के हमें या 50 रुपए कैफे में बैठना पड़ता था. प्राइवेसी, सिक्योरिटी, वो सब भूल जाओ. So anyways, so if you how you could throw light on that.
Yeah, some thoughts about that exhibition. I would say that in a sense, that exhibition was part one.
Hmm.
Part two has not happened,
Hmm.
and I don't know whether it will happen. But part one, I say because it was an exhibition that took 30 prominent Indian artists, right from Akbar Padamsi, Tayyab Mehta down to Subodh Gupta and the younger lot. It created it. I wanted to give these people who had never seen real works of art a, a kind of context, or like this is what is happening in the main thing. In my mind itself, one criticism was that I was not including any artist from the place where I was showing. If I was showing in Amravati, I was not including an Amravati artist. I was only showing what is happening in the big cities, but taking it to them. That is why I say it is part one. Part two would be an exhibition which actually goes around these different cities and takes artists from regional centers and travels them throughout the state or throughout the country. Today we have artists here itself. We have artists from Ladakh, from Assam, from Bengal, from Baroda, from everywhere. So that kind of regional thing is no longer a valid kind of thing today. And because of, as you rightly said, because of internet, we have access to whatever is happening all over the country or all over the world. So what is needed really is a dedicated, why I'm saying is dedicated, because there may be many corporates who are interested in doing this, but
Right.
when you go to a corporate, they always have their own agenda. So if you say that this is what has to be done, they'll have to introduce something of their own and remove something of yours. So a dedicated exhibition that can speak to people about what is happening throughout the country and create a kind of and all the top artists that I have spoken to are ready to go to any small city to talk about their work or to talk. There is never like no one says that I'm not going to go to. How do I go? You go by ST bus or something. they're ready to do that.
Hmm.
But someone has to organize that,
Right. Right. Yeah.
so that kind of thing. And I think today, and I spoke to Anna about that their organization is a kind of model
Hmm.
which can be replicated in many places.
Hmm. Hmm.
And if there is a linkage of these different
Hmm.
models,
Hmm.
these
Hmm.
different
Hmm.
kind of groups, then something concrete can happen.
Hmm.
You know.
Hmm. Hmm. Yes. Uh, a slight tangent I would pull through here. There used to be a group called as Astitva. I'm sure, sir, though he was not active member or part of it, he would have witnessed it closely. Uh, Madhavi Marte, even though he was not part of it, but he has closely been there. Dilip Ranade sir, who will be speaking tomorrow, he was very integral to it.
Prabhakar
They
Barve.
Barve, of course, led by Prabhakar Barve. The significance is that he proposed a model, economic or a financial model of some sorts, where if any artist who is unable to sell the works in a week's time of at Jahangir, that these group of artists who are contributing 10 rupees back then in 1971 or 72, they are contributing 10 rupees each per month. Yeah. And then they would buy one of the artists, at least one artist, so that he could sail through. So that was an idea, and they also together managed to put up one exhibition. So again, the model did not pull through much, because here artistic interests are more prominent, are stronger than the practical aspects of it. So where when we think of a collective, in a way it was a collective, if we can say so. There has been different groups or collectives since independence. So, and so, how do you look at these groups or the model of people coming together? And relatively, one model what we can see is of um, the one in Chennai,
Hmm.
Cholamandalam.
Cholamandalam.
So the Cholamandalam artist village could significantly had a longer bearing than any other economic models. Of course, there is an underlying ambition to it, that which is support the artistic practice and yet continue to survive or make a living and have homes,
Crafts.
crafts. Yes. So promoting crafts and different ideas. So how do you look at these ambitions through the sense of groups, or this particular model of
Yeah.
Astitva, things like that?
Yeah, various types of artist groups can happen, and certain types are like ideologically driven. Certain people come together because of certain ideas. I would say that in some sense, Place for People, when it happened, it was a short time, just for 2 or 3 years we were together. But six of us were together with seven of us, because Geeta Kapoor was also part of it. But there was a certain ideology behind that. So that is one kind. Another recent groups which are political in the sense they are activist groups.
Hmm.
They want to go and do something. They want to do a public art. They want to do something. They want to. So that is another kind. The third kind, which I see is more relevant,
Hmm.
is the one that different types of artists who are doing different kinds of work come together, essentially because if they pool their resources, they can subsist.
Right.
and
Right.
and as you see this exhibition, they can hold exhibitions.
Certainly.
So this is a third kind of group,
Hmm.
which I think now is the most relevant. What
Hmm.
happened in the past, many of those groups were like, strong personality driven
Hmm.
groups and things
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
There's always a lot of ego clashes in groups and things like that, which is something which one has to guard against.
Hmm. Hmm.
So there are lots of problems with group formations. But to, to be able to continue to do what you want to do, there is a need today that artists come together and form some kind of a cooperative, some kind
Hmm.
of a thing.
Hmm. Hmm.
Government is not going to help,
Hmm.
and approaching either the gallery or a collector individually is not as helpful as approaching an institution or something as a group. That
Hmm.
this is a
Hmm.
group, these are our things, and this is what we want to do. So can you help?
Right.
That kind of thing.
Yeah. Of course, there are. We can continue with different points over here, but I'm sure the younger minds and senior experienced people also would have points
Questions,
and questions to share.
comments.
So maybe we could take up question and then continue the conversation. And to begin with, I would ask Rajesh to share his experience of IPEP
Yeah,
as a barter
actually,
system.
Rajesh has
Yeah.
done
So
a
where
lot of continued group
while
activity.
the accessibility is a major question for different formats. So Rajesh has been working for almost 12 years now with under IPEP uh, of making it a free exchange resources in terms of uh, like the barter system, establishing a barter system for print making. So Rajesh, if you could share a quick experience of how this has shaped over a period and how your model is working.
हर बार एक सवाल पूछता हूँ कि हम में से कितने लोग आर्टिस्ट का काम खरीदते हैं। पर मैं आगे से पूछता हूँ, जब हम लोग ही नहीं करते और हमारी फैमिली ही नहीं करती है तो हम कैसे एक्सपेक्ट करते हैं कि बाकी के लोग खरीद। तो होता क्या है कि बाकी की एक इलिट फैमिली होती है या कलेक्टर होते हैं जो रिच है वही खरीद पाते हैं और हम बाद में बोलते हैं कि ये इलिट लोगों का शौक है। तो मेरा एक थोड़ा सा ये था कि अगर एग्जीबिशन करना है किसी को तो उसके से पैसे लगते हैं, पर पैसे हर आर्टिस्ट के पास नहीं होते और इंटरनेशनल करने में बहुत पैसा लगता है। इसे एक छोटा सा बार्टर सिस्टम पे एक आइडिया इनिशिएट किया जिसमें दुनिया भर के बिंग मेकर्स को कॉन्टेक्ट किया, ओपन कॉल किया और उनको बोला आप पार्टिसिपेट कीजिए। एक क्रिएटर हमने हर साल के लिए अपॉइंट किया और वो क्रिएटर की थीम के हिसाब से दुनिया भर के आर्टिस्ट लोग अपना काम बेचते हैं प्रिंट मेकिंग का और उसको एक साथ कंपाइल करते हैं। बहुत सारे आर्टिस्ट है तो समझिए 10 आर्टिस्ट है तो 10 आर्टिस्ट के 10 वर्क से 10 प्रीस है और हमारे पास आते हैं 100 प्रीस आते हैं तो उसको कंपाइल करते हैं और 10 पोर्टफोलियो बनाते हैं जिसमें हर पोर्टफोलियो में हर एक का काम रहेगा और वो पोर्टफोलियो हम लोग वापस भेज देते हैं। सिर्फ एक शर्त होती है कि आपको पैसा तो लगने वाला नहीं है, हम एंट्री का फीस नहीं लेते, हम उनका कैटलॉग बनाते हैं, हम लोग के पोस्टर बनाते हैं ताकि वो आदमी जो पार्टिसिपेंट है वो अपनी जगह पे एग्जीबिशन कर सके। ये कंडीशन होती है कि आपको जैसा आप प्रिंट एक्सचेंज कर रहे हैं वैसे आप एग्जीबिशन भी एक्सचेंज कर रहे हैं। तो दुनिया भर में मल्टीपल एग्जीबिशन ऐसे हुए, अराउंड मोर देन 125 एग्जीबिशन अभी तक दुनिया भर में हुए हैं। तो इस तरह से हुआ कि किसी जेब से पैसा नहीं गया और आप अपने जगह पे अपने विसिनिटी में एक रिसोर्सेज ढूंढ सकते हो, यहाँ पे एग्जीबिट कर सकते हो। और पैसा भी नहीं था कि आप बहुत पैसा खर्चा करके एग्जीबिशन करिए। आपने जो पोर्टफोलियो बनाया है वो आपके बैग में लेके आप कहीं भी रस्सी टांग के आप सीट पे भी एग्जीबिशन कर सकते हो। और इसके जो एग्जीबिशन से बहुत सारे म्यूजियम्स में हुए, यहाँ तक अभी 10 साल का एग्जीबिशन 2 जगह पे बिहार म्यूजियम और चंडीगढ़ म्यूजियम में 2 ही जगह पे हुआ और उनका सिंपोजियम भी हुआ जिसको क्यूरेट निखिल ने किया था। तो इस तरह से एक छोटा सा आइडिया था, इतना बड़ा हुआ कि अभी हमारे पास करीबन 6000 आर्टिस्ट लोग जुड़े हुए सोशल मीडिया से और बहुत सारी कुछ चीज़ें आने वाली।
If there are more comments and especially any questions or thoughts from the younger lot, please feel free to. Don't shy. This is your opportunity.
I'll have to think on it.
Do think it. Do think instantaneously. And you just have to frame that question. The question is already there in your mind, isn't it? आपको जो अपनी भाषा में जो बोलना है ज़रूर बोलिए। सवाल तो मन में होते ही हैं, चाहे इस उम्र में हो, इस उम्र में हो या इस उम्र में हो। हर उम्र में सवाल अलग अलग होते हैं, अलग अलग जवाब होते हैं। सो शायद आपका जवाब मिल जाए।
मैं और एक सवाल अच्छा मैं महेंद्र बोल। मैं ऐसे पूछना चाहता हूँ कि एज यू सेड अर्लियर के लाइक यू आर स्टडी केमिस्ट्री यू कैन गो टू द इंटरव्यू। अर्लियर इट वाज लाइक दैट बट नाउ यू हैव टू प्रेजेंट योरसेल्फ। सो लाइक 1990 इंडियन पीपल मीन्स इंडियन सोशल लाइफ में एक इम्पॉर्टेंट ईयर है और लाइफ चेंज्ड आफ्टर 1990. सो आपने ये ऑब्जर्व किया ही होगा. सो आई एम रिक्वेस्टिंग कि आप अगर कुछ इसके बारे में शेयर करेंगे कि पहले खुद के कन्विक्शन पे हम रहना और अपना काम करना, जैसे आपने आपका एग्जाम्पल और एक्सपीरियंस शेयर किया, और आज अपनी कन्विक्शन पे मुश्किल रहना और काम करना, क्या परिस्थिति ज़्यादा अभी विकट हो गई है? वी मस्ट बी ऑब्जर्विंग के, क्योंकि मुझे लगता है कि जैसे हमारे एम्बिशन से वैसे जो कैपिटलिस्ट है उनके भी एम्बिशंस है, और ज़रूरी नहीं कि उनके एम्बिशंस हमारे एम्बिशन से गिनते गिनते हैं. सो पहले को था कि लोगों ने हिस्ट्री में भी देखा कि वो एम्बिशन मिलते जुलते हैं तो फ्लरिशिंग हुआ. सो क्योंकि मैं अभी पढ़ रहा हूँ कि महाराष्ट्र की कंडीशन क्या है इकोनॉमिकली वगैरह. सो और इसलिए मैं जानना चाहता हूँ कि हाउ डू यू फील दैट यंगर जनरेशन how to struggle even more, there are more competition, things like that. So what they will have to do, यानी मीन्स आई वॉज हैप्पी कि आपने कहा कि नहीं मैंने फोटोग्राफी की, लेकिन फिर मैं मेरे जो पेंटिंग है उसी की तरफ गया. सो ग्रुपिटी उस प्रकार का विश्वास आज के पीढ़ी को भी मदद करेगा.
I think so. And मोर डिफिकल्ट तो ज़रूर हुआ है कि एक तो चॉइसेस बहुत ज़्यादा है, तो उस टाइम तो स्कल्पचर करना या पेंटिंग करना बस चॉइस था. मगर अभी इतना चॉइसेस है तो क्या करें क्या करें. अब मुझे क्या अच्छा लगता है ये जानने के लिए भी बहुत डिफ़िकल्ट हो गया है. और तब 2-3 लोग ऐसे सीनियर लोग रहते थे जिनके ऊपर आपका कॉन्फिडेंस था कि ये सही बताएंगे, तो आप जाके बताएं और उन्होंने कहा ये ठीक नहीं, ये ठीक है, ये ठीक नहीं, तो आपने मान लिया. अभी ऐसा है नहीं, तो किसके पास जाए, कौन बोलेगा. तो मेरे ख्याल से जो एक ऐसे कम्युनल एक कम्युनिटी ग्रुप हो सकता है जिसमें एक दूसरे का, और इसलिए ऑनेस्टी उसमें बहुत ज़रूरी होगी. कंपटीशन हमेशा रहेगा, मगर थोड़ा जो अपने अपने पास के लोग हैं, अपने दोस्त हैं, उनके बारे में सोचते समय थोड़ा सा कंपटीशन बाजू रख के ऑनेस्टली ये ठीक नहीं हो रहा है, क्यों नहीं हो रहा है. अभी आई हैव बीन लकी, मैंने कहा, क्योंकि मेरा बहुत अच्छा दोस्त मुझे बता सकता था, जी पटेल, कि नहीं ये नहीं, और मैं भी बता सकता था. मगर अभी वो डेवलप करना पड़ता है. आपके आपके इसमें डेवलप करना पड़ता है दोस्ती कि ये ऑनेस्टी एक दूसरे में है, ट्रस्ट है कि ये कह रहा है इसलिए नहीं कि उसका काम आगे जाए, ये कह रहा है क्योंकि उसको सचमुच लगता है कि ये काम में कुछ कमी है. तो ये सब चीज़ें आस्ते आस्ते, बट यू आर राइट कि आजकल के लिए बहुत ज़्यादा डिफिकल्ट है.
Sir, funny. Just a moment. I'll just add on to what sir, since sir has mentioned about Giv Patel. The title of the program today is drawn from a long back, almost anxious artist today. So at Mohile Parik Center, we had this program, and where Sudhir sir, Giv Patel, and a few others were part of it, and they were responding to the anxieties of different generations. And uh, I clearly remember what Giv Patel mentioned back then, that खुद को बचाना पड़ता है. Like while you are moving around, being as an artist, you have to continuously protect yourself. So if you can share what you have to protect from. Of course, you have already mentioned about the clarity, the honesty, but then there are many other things which one has to protect. which you might have seen that because they did not take enough care, an artist went to drain. So if you maybe you could share some insights, or without taking names, maybe you could tell us some stories.
I don't know story, but mainly protect oneself against opinions.
Hmm. Hmm.
There can be not, and it's more harmful for positive opinions.
Right, right.
कि someone who is praising
Hmm.
your work for whatever reason,
Hmm.
तो उस टाइम खुद को प्रोटेक्ट करना चाहिए कि वो ठीक कह रहा है, उसका पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू है, उसको लगा अच्छा लगा, ठीक उसमें रहेगा कुछ, मगर मुझे तपास के देखना चाहिए.
Hmm. Hmm.
तो इसीलिए ट्रस्ट बिटवीन पीपल इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट.
Hmm.
अगेन गीव कहता था कि आर्ट वर्क इज लाइक पीपल.
Hmm. Hmm.
कि तुम यू कन्फ्रंट एन आर्ट वर्क, क्या कह रहा है,
Hmm.
बहुत ज्यादा बोल रहा है,
Hmm.
कम बोल रहा है, कम बोल रहा है, तो उसके पास कुछ बोलने के लिए है,
Hmm.
इस या उसके पास कुछ बोलने के लिए नहीं है, इसलिए कम बोल रहा है.
Nice.
ये सब चीजें आपको तपास के देखनी है.
Wow.
So all these various things are there.
Right, right.
But I don't know. I would love to hear some of you. I'm sure that many of you face these problems.
अभी हमारे टाइम पे यानी कॉलेज में थे ना वो, तो अगर कहीं इंफॉर्मेशन आर्ट के बारे में लेना है तो हमें लाइब्रेरी में जाना पड़ता, वो किताबें ढूंढना पड़ता था. अगर ड्राइंग के बारे में कुछ सीखना चाहते जो तो वो ड्राइंग की किताबें निकालो, उस पर स्टडी करो. अभी आजकल के जो यंगर जनरेशन के लिए है कंप्यूटर है, दे कैन ट्रैवल ऑल ओवर द वर्ल्ड. वर्ल्ड में क्या हो रहा है वो तुरंत उनको मालूम होता है. अगर हमें वर्ल्ड में क्या हो रहा है तो मालूम ही उतना नहीं था. हमें जस्ट जो कॉलेज में पढ़ते थे, जो लाइब्रेरी देखते थे, वही हमारे लिए ट्रैवलिंग था. तो आज का के यंगर जनरेशन कंप्यूटर के थ्रू दे ट्रैवल, दे सी द व्हाट इज इंस्टॉलेशन गोइंग ऑन, बिना ले सब इंफॉर्मेशन मिलता है जिधर क्या हो रहा है. तो मेरे ख्याल से जब हम लोग थे कि हमें we never thought that we should go somewhere, we should be recognized by the art world. Today if you do something installation, how the westerns they are meaning, if you do that kind of work, you may tomorrow you say you can exhibit in Trinale or Binale or Italy or this Germany, you can. So that younger generation, I don't know what they are thinking right now, because whether they are really, they want to have a quick result, without doing a lot of practice, pencils or watercolors or acrylic, whatever. You have to really, from your original, you have to go through the stages. But because of Tinale and Binale, some younger generation, people wanted to something, to do something, which can be recognized by the Italy or Binale, Germany, this kind of, So but the generation, younger generation, they think, I don't know, whether they want to go according to that tradition, but they want to go to their own originality and develop it up to that stage.
As Mahendra said, it's very difficult for them to decide, because they're presented with so many options. We were not presented, as you said, we didn't even know what was happening. So now there, and one more thing to protect against oneself against is, I think, theory. This might sound very odd, but there is so much being written today on art, and there is so much high flown language that is used, that one feels that unless and until one can formulate one's own feeling in those terms, it will not reach the top. This feeling, this kind of darpan of theory and Derrida पढ़ो, ये पढ़ो, वो पढ़ो, स्पिवाक पढ़ो, नहीं पढ़ोगे तो तुम्हारा काम में क्या है, क्रिटिक पूछेगा. यू नो दिस फीलिंग, यू शुड हैव कॉन्फिडेंस कि मेरे काम में जो है वो है. तुमको जो कुछ उसमें रीड करना है वो करो. दैट इज अनदर थिंग टू प्रोटेक्ट वन सेल्फ अगेंस्ट.
मेरा क्वेश्चन दो क्वेश्चन से बोल रहे हुआ है कि अभी जो नया मॉडर्न टाइम जो यंग यंग जनरेशन है उसके पास एक्सेस है बहुत ज़्यादा, इंफॉर्मेशन है बहुत ज़्यादा, तो जो ये कंफ्यूजन है कि एक तो जो सर ने कहा कि क्विक रिजल्ट और रिजल्ट के साथ साथ क्विक रिकॉग्नाइजेशन भी चाहिए. हम अब आर्ट करते हैं ये नहीं कि ये करना है मुझे, ये ट्रेंड चलता है. दैट्स व्हाई वी डिड दैट. आप कभी यंग आर्टिस्ट से बात करिए, वो ऐसा होता है. एंड तो मैं भी वही कहना चाह रही थी कि लास्ट में कि बीइंग आर्टिस्ट हमें जो यंग जनरेशन है और जो हम लोग भी है, मतलब मैं उस तरह से लॉन्ग टर्म प्रैक्टिस नहीं, थोड़ा बीच बीच में करती रहती था, लेकिन एक जो डाउट ऑफ कि ये जो हम कर रहे हैं क्या वो बहुत पुराना है या तरीका पुराना है. आपने कहा कि आप जो काम कर रहे हैं उसमें आपको मज़ा आ रहा है, जस्ट तो फील लाइक कि अब ये जो किया वो आपको कुछ दे रहा है, वो वर्थ है करना. इसलिए आप सारे डिस्ट्रैक्शन और सारी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज़ और बहुत सारे क्योस के बीच में आपके ये वो एक पॉइंट है जहाँ आप खुश हो गए खुद के साथ भी और अपने काम के साथ. लेकिन ये जो डेप्थ यंग जनरेशन तक पहुंचने का मुझे लगता है कि उनको ये नहीं बोल पा रहे क्योंकि इन्हें लग रहा है कुछ लग रहा है कि ये तो बहुत अंदर डीप बात हो रही है, हमें तो अभी बहुत कुछ सोचना बाकी है. लेकिन मुझे लगता है आप लोगों को भी ये सवाल अगर मन में है तो पूछना चाहिए कि बीइंग अ आर्टिस्ट मुझे क्या ध्यान रखना चाहिए कि ये जो इतना सारा इन्फॉर्मेशन है, इतना सारा एक्सपोजर है, उस बीच हम अपनी पहचान, अपने काम की पहचान और अपने काम की ओरिजिनलिटी को कैसे प्रिजर्व. वो थोड़ा लंबा प्रोसेस होता है, लेकिन उस प्रोसेस की सीढ़ी भी तो कैसे चढ़. हम अभी 10 काम करते हैं, उसके बाद हमें लगता है कि यार तो ये तो गड़बड़, मतलब मुझे शायद ये करना चाहिए, शायद मीडियम ही चेंज करके देखते हैं. 10 काम में ही मीडियम चेंज हो जा रहा है. तो ये थोड़ा एक बार आप अगर डाइट करें, मुझे लगता है इस पर क्या आप कहेंगे.
एक तो कहूँगा कि हमारे लिए, हमारी जनरेशन, हमारे ऊपर की जनरेशन, किसी के लिए भी आसान नहीं था. हर एक को स्ट्रगल करना पड़ा है. स्ट्रगल इकोनॉमिक की बात अलग है कि मैं जो कर रहा हूँ वो ठीक है या नहीं, इसके बारे में हमेशा मन में क्वेश्चन होता ही है. मेरा पेंटिंग बहुत अच्छा लगा, मुझे ये पेंटिंग करना अच्छा लगा, मगर पेंटिंग के बारे में तो प्रश्न रहते ही है. तो वो तो कंटिन्यूस है. तो इनके बारे में भी होगा, हमारे बारे में भी होगा. सिर्फ फर्क इतना है कि हमारे बारे में उस टाइम पे रेजोल्यूशन के चैनल्स थे कुछ, यू नो, टॉकिंग टू फ्रेंड्स, टॉकिंग टू सीनियर्स. अभी दोज चैनल्स सीम टू बी कंस्ट्रिक्टेड.
I wanted to say something, or I wanted to viewers this thing. What she wanted to say. कि आप में यानी पर वो प्रैक्टिस में जो भी समझिए विजुअली, इवन इफ देर आर चेंजेस, देर इज अ कंटिन्यूअस engagement with the human condition, human situation, and empathy. See, very sensitive empathy to it. So how, and it is not that you suddenly took a stand and it happened. It is there since your early words. Ji would say the retrospective, and even there are some very. I still remember certain words from retrospective where a friend is on a deathbed and we were painted easily. So how does one recognize that what I believe in is is coming back to me again and again, and what I believe in is really something worthwhile to hold on. Yani must have taken care. Means though we are talking to friends and therapists and others, it is internally we find conceptually that yes, what I believe in from peaceful or something. So if you can share some light on it.
He also has a question there.
Sorry. I'll just add few things the man said, and so I just have one question, like although few things that sir also mentioned, like we are overpowered by this information that we have today, and the things that happening around us, it's so large, so mass, then that we feel very small towards the actual incident that what we are doing right now. So sometimes what we feel or what I feel is my art doesn't making any impact or some very relevant to the incident or such situation to right now. So I just want to know, like, how can we just come up, or is it right, or is it making sense, or is it making relevant to the situation that we are doing? How is it those actually? So that is my question. It's a basically one this insecure thought that we get, does or art making relevant to the situation or not?
About the relevance, you should put it aside. You want to be an artist, you will always be irrelevant to most people. That is a fact. Okay. So that's okay. But you want to be an artist, so you will be an artist. Now, the other question, Mahendra, I would say that I have been lucky in finding my subject very early on. When I was in medical college and I decided to be an artist, at that time itself I knew I want to paint people. There was only one doubt that kept nagging me at that time, the question of relevance. By being wanting to paint people, who is it going to help? Is it not better, because some of my friends were activists? So is it not better if I go and become an activist and do some concrete work? Again, then I was lucky that I had good advice from Shanta also. That what are you? Are you feel you're an artist or you're an activist? Activist is a different kind of person. If you're an artist, just do it. Whether it is relevant, whether it helps, whether it helps people or not, we don't know. So one should never assume that you're doing something for society. One continues to do it, because one has to do. Sometimes it is useful, sometimes it is not. But I would say that I am lucky. For many people, that becomes the first problem, finding the subject. What is it that you want to say? They keep jumping. I want to say this, I see this, I see this, I want to say that, I want to say that. So try to find, again, we are going back to Giv Patel again and again. Ranjit Hoskote, as a young poet, went to Giv Patel to show his work, his poems. Giv told him, reach down where it is broken in your mind. Reach down where it is broken. So for all artists, that is where your subject is lying buried. That is where you need to go. Not like someone is doing like Venice Biennale, ये बन रहा है, इधर ये बन रहा है, कोची में वो बन रहा है. That is not where it is.
A very very important takeaway for today. Like, this is the line to carry in our minds throughout life. Reach down where it is broken. Yeah, and I think this has to be a golden line to be shared with all of us. Yes, we'll have the next question. Yes.
सर मुझे पूछना है, जिस टाइम मैंने आर्ट के बारे में सोचा था करने के लिए, तब एक बात होती थी कि प्रैक्टिस, साधना, प्रैक्टिस आर्ट को तभी आप उस जगह अचीव कर सकते हो जब आप पूरा उसमें इन हो, रोज काम करो या जो भी प्रैक्टिस. जैसे क्लासिकल म्यूजिक का होता है, ये क्लासिकल डांस में होता है, तो वही तरीका है उसे अचीव करने का. इस जमाने में भी यही है.
अलग अलग मीडियम में अलग अलग होता है. जैसे भूपेन कहता था कि अगर मैं 15 दिन तक वाटर कलर न करूं तो फिर 16वें दिन वाटर कलर जमता नहीं है, तो रोज वाटर कलर करेगा तभी उसको वो कॉन्फिडेंस आएगा वाटर कलर। तो मीडियम के ऊपर है। अभी आप अनिश कपूर के जैसे कोई बड़ा स्कल्पचर बना रहे हो तो उसको प्रैक्टिस क्या करोगे, है ना। तो मीडियम मीडियम तो है, मगर यू आर क्वाइट राइट दैट करते रहना इम्पॉर्टेंट है। कुछ ना कुछ ड्राइंग करो, पेंटिंग करो, या कुछ भी करो, या घूमने जाओ, और जैसे इसने कलेक्ट किए हैं यहाँ यहाँ से पेड़ पौधे कलेक्ट करो, जो कुछ करना है करो।
नमस्कार सर। हाँ, और क्या मैं जो भी मैंने काम देखे कॉलेज से सब मध्यम और हीरो को लेके चुप, तो सब काम देखते हुए ऐसे लगता है कि अभी तो बॉम्बे ने वैसे मध्यम आगे नहीं रहे, तो क्या आपके अभी सब्जेक्ट जो होंगे नए वो क्या बदल जाएगी या पुराने रहेंगे? मोदी
आप एक क्वेश्चन भी
जी भी तो सर, मेरा क्वेश्चन था कि जैसे वो एक्सपोजर की बात है कि हमें एक्सेस ज़्यादा आर्ट पर, तो ड्यू टू ओवर एक्सपोजर आर बी गेटिंग कंडीशन टू सी इन अ सर्टेन वे एंड डू आर्ट दैट इज बीइंग हैपनिंग अराउंड अस, और आर बी क्रिएटिंग ऑफ आवर ओन?
Just before you answer the second question, I have an addition to do. I can once you answer Tambe's question.
ओके, यू आर राइट। आई मीन अभी ज़्यादा मिडिल क्लास आने लग गया है। अभी एयरपोर्ट आता है, मॉल आता है, अभी वही देख रहा हूँ। मैं जाता हूँ मॉल में तो वो आ जाएगा। तो परल में घूमता था पहले, हाँ, वर्किंग क्लास लोकेलिटी में। अभी लाइफ बदल गया, थोड़ा सा सब्जेक्ट भी बदल जाएगा, मगर लोग रहेंगे। ये कह सकता हूँ। और योर क्वेश्चन
Sir, yeah, let me. He's asking about the overexposure and conditioning out of it.
Yeah.
So I have an addition to do. Are we producing more work than necessary? Yeah, it could be a larger question that out of ambition. Now, in a way, to sum up, and let's considering this as the last question today, we see that everyone wants to produce megalithic or monumental work. Everyone's everything again, despite whether it is a Biennale or not, wherever whatever is the spaces, the ambitions are towards producing monumental works. So in that process, we all are on one end, we speak of Anthropocene and so many human inflicted tragedies within the social or global or earthly references. Yet we want to respond to it by making more art. So how do you look at it? And of course, I think that will answer his question also, whether okay, with that more production are we getting, because obviously if more it is produced, more we see and more we want to, like, it's kind of I remember in one of the interviews Anju Dudia stating that art comes from art. So it's a very poignant statement, because art motivates. It has to, like, if you want to produce, you learn from art, you learn from, like, it is so much of learning happening here. Like, I would love to use these mediums in my practice as well. So it is encouraging, it is inspiring, but in the larger sense, is it also becoming vulgar, production of overproduction of art? So how do you look at it?
I would say that being exposed to more things in itself is not a problem. You have to know how to digest it, and you have to decide what you need to digest and what doesn't need to digest. You know, अभी हर एक हफ्ते में 3-4 फिल्म रिलीज होते हैं, सब जाके देखना थोड़ी है। वैसे सब आर्ट जाके देखना है। अभी बीएनएल में इतना, अभी आर्ट फेयर में इतना आर्ट लगता है, सब देखना मुमकिन नहीं है। फिर भी सो यू हैव टू नो व्हाट you want to digest, you have to choose, you have to have your own vision, क्या उसमें से अपने को क्या मिल रहा है। तो ओवर एक्सपोजर इन इट सेल्फ प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, ओवर प्रोडक्शन के बारे में आई एम नॉट श्योर कि आई वुड नॉट से कि काम कम करो, काम कर रहे हो करते रहो। तो ओवर प्रोडक्शन होता है तो I don't know, होने दो कहीं ना कहीं जाके उसको वैल्यू आएगा।
Right, certainly. Certainly. Again, do we have direct answers, clear answers, straight answers? I think as we speak of artistic practices, उसमें black and white answers कभी हो ही नहीं सकते.
I want to say a few key
Yes.
because this is the installation, how we started installation in the West. You know, they did the paintings so many years. They were doing the lot of painting. You know, they got fed up out of the painting and they started doing the installation. Now in India, we have every corner we have an installation. Now the कुलदीप ने जो किया है, उसके गांव में तो हर एक घर में ऐसा चूल्हा लगता है, ऐसा फर्नीचर होता है, गोबर का ये होता है. So every corner we have a installation. Whether we should follow the West or we should continue our practice and then you do the thinking when you have to doing some drawing, when you feel like doing something very present your village or present your native place, then we should do it. What do you think that how we should go about the installation?
I think it's a new medium and it opens up, ठीक है, पेंटिंग इज कंटिन्यूइंग, बट किसी को लगा कि मुझे इंस्टॉलेशन के थ्रू कुछ बोलना है। हाँ, होता है। अभी जैसे पेंटिंग भी तुम किसी का देख के शुरू करते हो 10वीं में, वो पेंटिंग कर रहा है, मैं भी पेंटिंग करूँ, तो कहीं से तो आता है। एज ही सेड, it's someone else's statement, what Atul said. Art comes from art. So ultimately, Kuldeep's thing is art. Why is it art? Because it is placed in an art gallery. Because it is presented as art. It makes a difference. After Danto का writing अगर पढ़ोगे तो soup cans, Campbell soup cans उसने डाले वहाँ पे, तो आर्ट कैसे बने? It's easy to laugh it off. ये क्या, वो बाजार से लेके आया कैम्बल सूप कैंस, किसका है वो, क्या एंडी वॉरहॉल ने आके उधर रखा, तो आर्ट कैसे बना? मगर इट ब्रोक समथिंग। अभी इवन दूशॉ ने फाउंटेन रखा, तो इट ब्रोक समथिंग। इट्स नॉट लाइक वो ब्यूटीफुल है क्या, वो ऐसा तुम मार्बल के जैसे है क्या, वो बात नहीं है। मगर फाउंटेन, उसको फाउंटेन बनाया और आर्ट गैलरी में रखा। It's a question of art history. I mean, it's a complex thing, but it's...
a quick response, please, if you can come ahead.
बताइए नवरा की, जैसे कि हम लोग बोल रहे थे कि यंग जनरेशन, ओल्ड जनरेशन, बोलते था हर जगह पे, हर टाइम के हर आर्टिस्ट वही पा खुद लिखा रिसोर्टेज का, उस हिसाब से काम किया। कब आर्टिस्ट खुद के लिए भी काम करता था, उससे क्या कि काम करता था, कमीशन नाम भी करता था, कटिंग दस्ती भी रखा था, खुद करना। आपको डायरेक्ट कॉर्पोरेट में बैठिए, कमीशन सेलेक्ट करते हैं, भैया देखता है। बहुत कॉर्पोरेट वर्ल्ड हुआ तो उसके नाते वो आर्ट को आ रहा है। जहाँ तक कि नई नई टेक्नोलॉजी आती है तो NFT भी बेचता है, तो ये सब कुछ आर्टिस्ट करता है। जब भी नया बूथ आता है उसको एक्सेप्ट कर देता। उसमें अक्सर एक दिन होता था, दिख गया था उसको कि मुझे ये करके देखता। अब मेरे आर्ट में वो कैसा टूल है, एंड जैसे कि वो लड़कियों का मैंने जो देखा कि जो अफर्मेशन से वो अफर्मेशन मैंने भी देखती करती, तो उनको आइडिया था हाँ ये अफर्मेशन तुम ले। ये अफर्मेशन वाला सिस्टम पहले ज़माने में जब मैं केक्स का था तब नहीं था, आज है। तो ऐसे उन्होंने क्या भूल रहा है, क्या सोचा है, मुझे लगता है कि नेक्स्ट जनरेशन हमारे तरह ही खोज रहा है। और जब नया जनरेशन आएगा, शायद जनरेशन ऐसा हो सकता है कि इम्यूनिटेबल स्ट्रक्चर को हम लोग एक्सेप्ट कर रहे हैं, अब करोड़ों में बिक रहा है। तो बात ऐसा ही है कि जनरेशन ये आगे बढ़ते जाए ना, उसको कोई एंड नहीं है। और जिस दिन मेरी सोच, उनकी सोच, जवानी की सोच और इनकी सोच रुक जाएगी, दिन आर्ट हो जाए। मुझे लगता है कि ये तो सोच है ना, ये तो नया जनरेशन आज कन्फ्यूज है, बोल रहे हैं हम लोग इन का कन्फ्यूज हो। वो लगता है कि बहुत क्लियर है, तो हम लोग मल्टीटास्किंग नहीं है, वो मल्टीटास्किंग। तो ये नए जनरेशन में एक कहते हैं ऐसा बोलने से शायद दे हैव इंफॉर्मेशन, दे नो व्हाट टू प्रोड्यूस, व्हाट टू डिलीवर, और दे आर डूइंग दैट। और जो आर्टिस्ट है और जो खबर में है वो बरोबर 15 में ज़्यादा होता, और जो सीरियस काम कर रहा है उसमें को उस पे काम कर, तो इतना ही।
A very valid response. Again, you are not on the receiving end, but you are on the leading end. You want? Yeah, please, please.
So my question is that as an art practitioner, what I'm experiencing कि अभी जो बुलेट फिल्स जितना भी यंग आर्टिस्ट आर्ट प्रैक्टिशनर जो है, जो कॉलेज में जो मैं देखता हूँ, जब एक मटेरियल को लेकर आते हैं, जो जब कॉलेज के जब मास्टर्स के बाद ऐसा एक सिचुएशन होता है कि स्टूडेंट के काम में काफ़ी चेंज हो जाता है, इवन मटेरियल इवन सब्जेक्ट में, कि एक फाइनेंशियल चीज़ें के गैरेज के ऊपर जो कॉलेज में एक नया काम देखने को मिलता है कि मटेरियल को लेकर और सब्जेक्ट को लेकर। जब कॉलेज के बाद एक चैलेंज आ जाता है कि एक गैलरीज वाला गैलरीज के थ्रू या कमर्शियल फाइनेंशियल और चीज़ें या एक नैरेटिव भी एक ज़बरदस्ती भी बिसान गुजा मतलब करना पड़ता है, तो एक शिपमेंट देखता हूँ, तो उस चीज़ के ऊपर आप
Okay. Since we are running out of time, I will quickly answer and we can have a personal chat about it. The whole larger setup of this talk today or discussion today was about artists having to become an entrepreneur. आज आर्टिस्ट करके काफ़ी नहीं है, आपको अपना अपना कंपनी खोलना पड़ेगा। जैसे काफ़ी सीनियर आर्टिस्ट, अगर आई वोंट टेक एनी नेम्स राइट नाउ, बट एस्टैब्लिशमेंट, फाइनेंशियल एस्टैब्लिशमेंट्स उनके खुद के हैं, जिसके थ्रू वो बड़े बड़े कंपनियों को प्रपोजल्स डालते हैं, इसी के थ्रू वो बड़े बड़े इंस्टॉलेशंस बनाते हैं। मटेरियल अगर खर्चे की बात आती है, ये सारे जो चीज़ें हैं, they are even if to take a very important name here, Anish Kapoor, without an financial establishment वो इतना बड़ा बीन वहाँ पे लगा ही नहीं सकते। विदाउट अ पॉलिटिकल इन्फ्लुएंस वहाँ पे वो बीन सोशल स्फीयर में लगा ही नहीं सकते।
जैसे हम लोग अभी फरवरी में आर्ट फेयर देखेंगे दिल्ली में, लेकिन हम कभी आर्टिस्ट ध्यान ही नहीं देते कि उसका ऑर्गेनाइज़र कौन है, वो कहाँ से इतना इन्वेस्टमेंट ला रहा है, वो किस प्रकार भी सिस्टम क्रिएट कर रहा है, क्योंकि वो सिस्टम लास्ट 3 साल में चेंज हो। लास्ट ईयर सडनली इंटरनेशनल आर्टिस्ट का भी उन्होंने काम लाया, वो सब कुछ चेंज हो गया। ये चीज़ें हम कभी समझते ही नहीं, जो समझना उतना ही ज़रूरी है जितना आर्ट प्रैक्टिस।
Again, to conclude, we have to conclude this session. What Rajesh mentioned is a very important and valid point, that your generation is not on the receiving end, but perhaps the next step will be to lead the next generation, right? We may criticize Gen Z with so many things, and many things are true. Yeah, but equally you have more struggles than us, less time than us to solve the problems, and it's a very tough time we have let things for you too. Yeah, every senior generation is responsible for the latter generation, what they hand over. So unfortunately we are handing you less time, yeah, to
More
struggle
problems.
more complex problems. Yep. And no, वो तो नहीं, वो सारे आ गए, everything is part of it. So again, the reason why we are all here together, maybe we could hear each other and come together and solve it together. Yeah, perhaps एक सवाल को एक जवाब कोई दे नहीं सकता, ऐसा कोई क्या बोलेंगे, एक मैंडेट बन नहीं सकता है कि जहाँ पे वो सॉल्व हो जाए, but perhaps it is our continuous navigation and negotiation. So I think on that note we can conclude. That is where also my personal work comes into picture, where I'm working with different generations of artists. So we will have a conversation later after this session, but yeah, thank you Shabri, thank you Moshmi and the entire team of Potential for bringing this platform to younger generations, and they have been recurringly doing it for last 5 years, I guess. Yeah, so which is quite a consistent thing. Yeah, एक चीज to sustain artistic practices for 5 long years is not easy, and that too with clear perspectives, with clear transactions. And I think that itself is a necessity of a collaborative spaces today. Collaboration is what is going to allow us live and sustain in this chaotic world. So we should all come more closer to each other, share our resources, share our artistic practices, and thrive. Thank you.